Yeah, you cannot but do God's will, and that's a whole nother topic. It's another talk. Your body is the vehicle of spirit. So this is, to me, the body is like the heart and the mind, or the heart and the higher self. It's where you experience intuition, compassion, forgiveness, gratitude, unconditional love. It's where your intuition comes through. It's sort of like the vehicle for the intuition to come through. Your higher manas, or higher mind, is, I mean, obviously our mind is not split into two, but for this purpose we do. It's the part of your mind when you study, when you think thoughts that are not mundane, when you, whenever your conscience comes in, when pure reason is used, when you concentrate, when you use your imagination. It's subjective. Okay, when we go up into meditation, we're up into higher manas. Well, we're into all of these, really. Then your lower personality, you have your lower mind, which is the more objective, everyday, concrete, rational. It's where we find the ego. Well, the ego is all of this, but the mind aspect of the ego. You've got your emotional astral self, more the conditional love. So if you like, unconditional love is up here. Conditional love, devotion, fear, etc. can be down here. And what we plan to do is lift up to this. The etheric is what I've been talking about. This is your energy field here. Then you've got your physical body. And you notice up here, it's light. The vibration is very light. Like I was talking about, when you lift up in meditation, you lift the vibration up into this lighter area. There's no time, there's no dimension. Down here it's much more dense, darker. There's 3 dimensions, and obviously time as we experience it. But what we're here to do is to bring spirit down into matter. So you know the quote that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. And sometimes in this world people think, oh right, well I just need to go up and live up here then. But that's not what we're here for. We're down on the physical plane to bring spirit down into matter. And how this sort of works, first of all we integrate these 4 parts of our personality. We bring them into a congruence. And this takes many lifetimes. Once this personality vehicle is more congruent, it's able to be contacted by the soul. We usually have a few incarnations or a lifetime where things start getting a bit tough, because the soul starts knocking on your door. You start to not necessarily want to go the way you were going. You become less material, you become less drawn to things of the world. Things just don't make you happy anymore. There's no satisfaction in things that there was satisfaction in before. And you start to take a different path. And this, through many lifetimes, is the building up of the Antakarana, or sometimes called the Rainbow Bridge, because you build it up on all 7 rays, so it has all 7 colours of the rainbows in different lifetimes. And this bridge, how clear this bridge is, if you like, how open and wide it is, depends. This is what determines how much soul energy is able to come down into the personality, so how much you are in contact with your higher self, but also how easy it is for you to go up into these higher energy states, these higher vibrations. So this is explaining this diagram in terms of energy. And obviously what eventually happens is this upper triangle comes down to infuse. So the soul comes down and you get a soul infused personality, where a person starts to operate from a place of their soul. And the personality desires and ways are the servant to the soul rather than the master. So the ego is a very, very good servant and a terrible master. And this is what happens through this process. So now what I want to focus on is to understand why we need, or why it's beneficial to raise your vibration. So now what I want to talk about is how we do that. Another thing to be aware of is the halo that's drawn around saints. It's just a depiction of, especially when the energy field around the head, around the crown chakra, is very open and vibrating. So I suppose I just wanted you to be aware that that is a very special, when a person's raised their vibration to that kind of level, there's a very special energy going on. Meditation, probably one of the fundamental ways to raise your vibration. And one of the reasons it does this is when you meditate, you not only get all the positive benefits to yourself personally in terms of you tend to be more efficient in life, you tend to be able to handle stressful situations better, you know, things flow a bit more, you've got some time out. It's said that the soul meditates all of the time. So when we sit in meditation, we just connect up with that soul meditation. And for that time, the peace we experience is because we're just in touch with our soul, with God, if you like. When you meditate, you develop the ability to become what we call the silent observer or the silent watcher. You lift up into that Buddhic nature, the Buddha within, the Buddhic nature within you. And by just stepping back, you're able to observe what's going on in your mind. And that, if you can do that in a non-critical way, in a detached way, you start to really know thyself. You see the thoughts that run. You see the thoughts that run time and time again. You start to see the thoughts that are conditioned. You might even recognise where they've come from. You might even decide you don't want some of those thoughts anymore. You start to see the patterns, the emotions. And that place of stepping back into that silent observer is a very powerful place to be. So if every day you can establish a practice where you do that, what happens after a time is you start to step into the place of that silent observer even when you're not meditating. So life becomes, not always, but life can become almost like a constant meditation where the thoughts slow down. They don't stop, but they just slow down. The space between the thoughts is greater. And also the nature of the thoughts changes. With a regular practice of meditation, you find that the thoughts that are running in your mind, and even your response to emotional situations, you start to see when you react in a conditioned way. You start to see the same old. And the minute you see that, you have a choice to change that. You can step back and say, well, no, actually, I'm not going to do that this time. And this is a very, very good sign that you're starting to lift up into those higher levels of vibration, because you're starting to see that you have a choice. The other thing is mindfulness, and you'll know a lot about mindfulness, but the thing about being in the here and now and in the moment is that that is where the energy is. It requires energy to go into the past or to work into the future. And we can do that, and we juggle between the two. But the time that requires that, in which we are not giving out any energy, in which we receive energy, is the here and now, is the present. And so when you are mindful, things don't take as much energy. And people don't realise that this is one of the reasons that people who meditate have got more energy and more vitality and are more efficient, is because they tend to be mindful, because they're stepping into that place of being just there. So just being, doing what they're doing. It's, if I said it's being while doing, does that sound strange probably. When we meditate, we tend to just be. The rest of the time we're doing, we're frantically doing. When you're mindful, you're bringing that being energy of meditation into your doing. You can talk about it in terms of masculine and feminine. So to be is feminine. So when you go deep into meditation, it's a reflective place. It has the energy of the moon. It's the divine feminine. It's grounding. It's connecting. When you're out in the world, it's much more dynamic. It's the energy of the sun. It's the masculine. It's vibrant, but it can be exhausting if there's too much of it. So when you're mindful in your doing, you bring the feminine in as well. You bring the masculine and the feminine in. And that yin and yang energy is why you are energized in that moment rather than it depleting your energy. And you'll find this, if there's something that you love to do, I don't know if any of you paint or draw, or it's often garden, or something you do that becomes meditative just in your normal life. You just get totally, you lose track of time, you go into that space and just be. And you'll find you're still doing something, but it's like a meditation even though you're doing. Because you're bringing in that being. And this is the key to our health and our vibration, if you like. A lot of disease processes start in the energy field. And its own, if you like, if you were in a job that's constantly stressful, so every day you go into this job, you go into that environment, your energy field is bombarded by negative thoughts, negative attitudes, and negative vibes. And at the end of the day, you feel completely depleted. You think you're exhausted, and yet if you took the dog out for a walk, you find you've actually got plenty of energy. So it's not a physical depletion, it's you've picked up a lot of negative energy from that work environment. And then you may have ways to replenish that energy when you get home. You may take a shower, you may do some yoga, you may do some meditation and replenish your energy field. So you're doing this without even knowing that's what you're doing. If you didn't do something to replenish that energy field, and day after day after day, week after week and year after year, you're in that job, it will deplete your energy field. And this is when people who are unhappy in their job start to get ill. Because there are holes literally in that protective energy field, and it starts to intertwine with the physical body and affect different organs. I mean, this is a whole area of medicine which I'm not an expert, but you can read much more about. So do you see how your energy field is paramount to your health? That's just one example. Right intention, thought and action. Positive thoughts give a positive vibration and a positive energy field. Negative thoughts, fear and doubt do the opposite. When you, I want to talk a bit here, I'll just talk a little bit here about your breath. Your thoughts and your breath are completely linked. Okay? So if you find that you're really stressed, what do you do with your breathing? You hold it. Yeah, you can hold it. Yeah. What else do you do with your breath? What's your breathing like if you're really stressed? Shallow. Up here. Yeah. Yeah. So you're not using down here at all, are you? Okay. So it's, and an anxiety attack is the worst, isn't it? When it's really up here. Okay. Your thoughts and your breath are linked. If you just bring the breathing down. Just bring it down, so that you're breathing from your belly. You will find that after a time with doing that, it'll slow down. And what happens when you do this is you slow the thoughts down. So there's a bit more space in between them where you can catch your breath if you like, where you can have some respite from all these thoughts that are running. And then what happens, you start to slow down, the thoughts start to slow down. And you start to see those which serve you well and those which are not serving you particularly well. And you have the start of a process called discrimination, where you're choosing. You're choosing which thoughts to listen to, and you're choosing which thoughts not to listen to. And because of the link with the breath, it makes it easier to do that. When they're all running in your head and you've got deadlines and you've got this person asking you this and that person asking you that, it's very difficult to be discriminatory, to have discernment. Very, very difficult. But if you can connect with your body serves you well in this way, and you can connect with the breath, you can slow them down. There's a little technique that I teach my yoga people. If you imagine that you're breathing in the most supreme quality air that you can think of. So I often imagine I'm on Snowdon or at the beach. I mean, you guys have got supreme quality air here anyway, but you imagine that you're somewhere where the air is really good stuff. When you breathe, imagine you're breathing that in, what naturally happens without you having to do anything at all is your thoughts become more positive and they become more self-affirming. And so you don't have to get into your mind and say, yeah, no, don't want that one, don't want that. You don't have to get in there and weed the garden. It's like an instant weed. it's a wonderful thing to do. I have a woman who comes to my yoga who's had ME for about 20 years, and she gets anxiety attacks when she goes to the supermarket because it's just too exhausting. There's too many fluorescent lights, too many people, too much visual stimuli, and she goes into meltdown when she has to go to Morrison's. And she said to me the other day, Teresa, I stood in Morrison's. She said, I remember what you said. She said, I stood in the middle of the supermarket and just breathed. She said, I grounded first, I connect through my feet, and I'll teach you how to do that. And she said, then I just slowed my thoughts down, slowed my breathing down. She said, then I imagined that I was at the seaside and I was breathing. And she said, you know, nobody even noticed that she was standing in the middle of Morrison's on the verge of a panic attack. And she said it was lovely. And she said, I just calmly got on with the shopping, did my shopping and went home. So there's a power there. And she was consciously working on her own vibration. She had recognised that her vibration had gone into a state that she didn't want it to be in, and it wasn't serving her well. And she was doing something to raise her vibration so that she could then do what she needed to do. So that's an example. Right relations, and this is where right relations with other people, this is where your energy field bumps up against other people's energy fields. And people who are psychic will say that when two people are having an argument, there's literally sparks flying from one energy field to another and holes, and you know, it's quite destructive. When two people are in love, there is a flow of energy from the heart chakra from one to the other, and that's why you feel so good. Okay, you feel amazing. You like that feeling of being in love. But opening the heart chakra, you can have that feeling all of the time, especially connecting to source, to spirit, to God, to something other than just our small self down here. That flow of energy is all around us. You can tap into it at any time. And so this interchange of energy fields has got a lot to do with our relations with other people. So when we start to step back and look at our relations with other people, how we're treating other people, how we're thinking about other people, what our reaction and our conditioning is when we're coming up against other people, when we step into a place of observing what's going on and maybe even changing the way that we relate to other people, we change our energy field and we have a really positive effect on that person's energy field. And before we know it, relations with other people become easier. They become more harmonious. Conflict can be resolved in a different way. And this is Aquarius. This is the age we're coming into. Bringing the head and the heart together. So your thoughts and your emotions, but from the heart. And starting to see how we relate to other people. And if you can do that with one other person, you can do that within a community. And if you can do it within a community, you can do it within a nation. And if nations can start to relate to each other in this way, and this is where we are going. This is the plan for our evolution, if you like. And so your small part in that plan is to sort your own vibration out, so that when you bump up against every other person you bump up against in your life, the vibration is kept high. You're raising the vibration of the people on the planet, if you like. And so I've got an article here that I've written on right relations that goes into this a little bit. It talks about right relations within yourself. And once you work on right relations within yourself, you then work on right relations with other people. And so I can give you a copy of that at the end if you would like it. As part of that right relations, I don't know if many of you read the Course in Miracles. Yeah, a few smiles. Okay. In the Course in Miracles, the idea, I'll summarise it in a minute, 2 minutes. The idea is that we take in sensory information and we perceive, in any given situation with another person, based on my past experience, based on what's coming in through my senses, based on the way my mind works, I'll make a judgment or a perception about something that person says to me, say. Now that may be a true perception, or it may not be. I may have perceived that that person meant what I thought they meant, or I might have got it wrong. Okay. Now, say that perception causes anger, causes a reaction, causes an emotion in me that's not positive, because I perceive that this person said something unkind or something untrue. That misperception is only that, it's a misperception. The idea in Course in Miracles is that when we are connected, that truth is when we are connected, and when we are connected we experience love. And when there's an absence of love, that is just an indication that there's been a misperception. And in this misperception is a disconnection. And we fear being disconnected, okay, from love, whether that's love with another person or a higher, more divine love, because they're all the same. They're the same connection.